we're going to be building this animated accordion component using nothing but React, Tailwind, and TypeScript. So this should integrate really well with the previous UI component library tutorials if you followed along with those. But if not, then this should also work as a nice little standalone project. You can grab the starter code from this repo, which I will link in the description below. And all it is just a bootstrapped Vite project with Tailwind and a few extra components that I added just for like layout purposes, just to help kickstart the process and, you know, avoid extra jargony boilerplate setup stuff. So go ahead and grab this, and once you got it cloned and you got your server running, we'll get started. Let's go ahead and head into the source directory and into app.tsx. And we're going to be doing all of our work in this file. You can organize it how you wish later. And if you want like a good way to do this that's consistent with my previous tutorials, well, what are you doing? Go to my previous tutorials. But yeah, so otherwise, let's go ahead and start with this. So what we're going to do first is just kind of like lay out the template of what the accordion is going to look like. And I like to do this step first because this allows us to kind of like just quickly get a rough draft of like what we want the end result to look like. And then we can start adding in the logic and increase in the complexity of the logic. And the reason I'm doing this is because if you're a beginner, well, a lot of this logic might not make sense if we just go straight into it. So at the very least, this kind of like gets you primed and ready for what we're going to be diving into. So first thing we want to do is replace the content inside this layout with a div. And this div is going to have classes of rounded, medium, border 2, and border slate 200, padding of 4, dark border slate 800, and when it reaches a small breakpoint, we'll give it a padding of 10. There we go. So, whoops, added an extra enter there. Cool. Okay, so now we have our little container. So inside of here, we are going to, we're going to create the, I'm just going to add a comment here. We're going to say this is the outer accordion wrapper. Okay. Inside here, we're going to add a div of width full. And inside of this div, we're actually going to add an accordion item. So remember, the accordion is not like, it's not really one component. It's like multiple components. So you have the accordion, which kind of like contains all of the accordion items inside of it. And then each one of the items has both the thing that it uses as a trigger, as well as, well, why don't I just like show you here? I don't know why I'm explaining it. We'll go back. So this is like the final product. So this outer part, this is the actual container. This is like the parent. So this is going to manage all the state and really like provide everything that the children need, including functionality and state and so forth. Internally, you have these individual accordion items, which are made up by this Accordion Trigger and the Accordion Content. The trigger is always visible. The content is only visible when the state decides that it should be so. So with that in mind, that's not right. Oh, there we go. With that in mind, let's go ahead and add the static content for all those. So we said that the this is the outer accordion wrapper, and then inside we're going to have our first accordion item. Accordion item is going to be a div, border bottom 2, and a few other classes actually. Border bottom slate 200, background of white during light mode, and when it's dark mode, border bottom slate, was it 800? Yep, there we go. Oh, and we also want to give it a background. So when it's dark mode, we'll give it a background of slate 950. Cool. So that's our first accordion item. Inside of here, we're going to add the accordion trigger. Okay. And underneath there, we'll add the accordion content. Inside the accordion trigger, or right underneath this comment, I should say. The Accordion Trigger is, why am I commenting here? Whoops. The Accordion Trigger is going to be a button that's going to take up the entire width, and it's going to have an X padding of 4, whoop, that's a 5, and Y padding of 2, we'll say text left, text large, font, bold, text, slate, 9. That's an 8, 9, 50. And when it's hovered, we'll give it an underline. And on dark, the text will be white. And inside here, I'll just add a space. And then in the Accordion content, this is going to be a div with overflow hidden. Next, we'll add a div with background slate 200. Oh gosh, 200. There we go. And we'll give it a padding of 4. Text slate 9. Where did 967 come from? 950. And dark background slate. I'm just gonna start using my mouse from now on because that's easier. I make so many mistakes here. Dark text slate 400. Cool. Inside of here, so I already copied a little bit of text that I'm just going to paste in here. And you know, you can put whatever you want in here. So there we go. Hey, like that video. So that's more or less all that it is. So all that we have after that is just like 2 more accordion items. And I'm actually gonna, because like, since we're in the vein of being lazy, I'm just gonna go ahead and paste those in here as well. So I guess right under this div, line 22 here, paste those, and there we go. So that's, yeah, all right. Thanks for watching the tutorial. Nah, I'm just kidding. So this is just our template, but you'll see they don't do anything, these accordion items. So now we have to add some functionality so that we can make it super nice and snazzy. Back at the top of the app component, let's go ahead and start adding in our state. So first thing we want to do is create a state variable called OpenItem. And this is going to house the state. This state is scoped at the accordion itself, so the parent accordion object. And essentially, this is just going to hold the value, the key of which accordion is currently open. So in here, we're going to say OpenItem, and then we're going to set OpenItem. And initially, we're going to have it such that, oh wait, I need to import useState. There we go. And this is going to be of type string or null. And this is going to be initially set to null, aka nothing being open. We also need to add a click handler because we're going to add this click handler to the triggers, which will then update the state. So we'll say const handle item click equals, and we're going to pass in the value of which will just be the key for the specific accordion item. In this case, it's going to be of type string, and then inside of the function block, we'll say set open item. And what we're going to do is, if the value in the open item state variable, state value is already the same as the value that's being passed in. So if it's identical to the value, then we're just going to set the open item to null, which will basically mean if this thing is already open, then just close it. Excuse me. Otherwise, we will set the value. Now that we have these state values, let's go ahead and add the click handler to the accordion trigger. So we'll say on click equals ANFN. Oh, there we go. And it's not going to take any parameters. It's just going to run handle. Oh, let me actually get rid of these curly braces. There we go. Just going to run handle item click, and we'll just say this one's value is item 1. Okay. Next thing we want to do is this is just going to actually change the state, but we need to actually modify the content so that it hides or shows depending on that value. So to do that, let's say in this this top div of the Accordion content area, we'll add a style tag. And there's a reason I'm doing it with a style tag and not with a class. And we'll address this later when it comes to animation. But what we're going to do here is we'll say max height is equal to, if open item is item 1, then we'll set it to none. So it'll have a max height of none, meaning it'll fill up the entire space of the of its area. I know it seems a little confusing because it's none, but that means full. Yeah, I know it's weird. Otherwise, then we'll set the max height to 0, meaning it'll be a height of 0, meaning it'll be hidden, right? So, well, I guess not hidden. It'll still be visible in the DOM, but it just, it's a magic trick. So there we go. So now when we click on it, it's visible. And when we click on it, it's hidden. So to get the rest of the accordion items to behave like this, let's just go ahead. I'm just going to control click this and control click this, copy these. I'm going to come down to this first button, click, control click here, and then I guess control click after the overflow hidden class. Press enter a few times just to give us some space. Paste those there, save. And now when I click this, it opens both of them because I have item 1 for both of these. So I'm just going to highlight item 1 for the second one, control D to select it, and then update it so that it's item 2. All right. And now same thing for the next one. So just control double click both of these so that they're both selected. Come down to this button and to this overflow hidden, press enter, paste those there, change item 2 to item 3, like so, save, and now we have a really bare bones, ugly accordion. But hey, it works. But you already know, this right here, this isn't really going to cut it because, well, we're essentially hard coding everything in the main app component. So let's go ahead and start componentizing this. First thing we're going to do is I'm going to, let me see. We are going to, I guess the first thing we can do is the actual accordion item. So what I'm going to do is like slowly build our way into the final componentized thing. And it's going to be multiple components. But for now, we're going to start with the actual accordion item. So I'm going to just grab this first one. I'm not going to cut it. I'm just going to copy it. So Control C. And I'm going to go into my directory and create a new component. I'm just going to call it accordion.tsx, enter. And in here, I'll run RAFC. I'm going to hide my menu real quick, Control B. And I'm not going to call this one accordion. I'm going to call it instead accordion item. And we're going to return that JSX that we just copied. So why are we screaming? Oh, we're screaming because of indentation, I think. And maybe this comment. There we go. Okay. So it doesn't like that comment at the top. So in here, let's go ahead and start making this thing a little bit more reusable. So let's see. We're going to say that, well, I guess let's first think about like what needs to get passed into here. So because the click handler is getting passed in from the parent, we're going to need to have this be one of the destructured props. So we'll say, instead of calling it handle item click, because that doesn't really make any sense because this is the item itself. That does make sense in the parent. It doesn't make sense like in this context. So we're going to call this function the onToggle. So whatever function we pass in here, which will be the handle item click, we're going to call it onToggle in this component. And I'm going to go ahead and just kind of replace this whole thing with that onToggle, because this onToggle is going to carry not just the function, but also the parameter passed into the function. So that's going to run when this gets clicked, because we want this to be abstract. We don't want this to carry any values itself. Next one is this text right here. Since this is in the trigger, we'll just call this the trigger text, and we'll pass that in from the top like that. And let's see. The next one is the children. So we'll basically render this, since the content is going to be like whatever, like it can be text, or it can be like HTML or other React components. We'll just pass these in as React children. And let's see. I guess this right here, because this actually carries the value, this whole thing, we can get rid of it and we can set it as a state value, which we will just, I guess, redefine as max height, like so. So now let's go ahead and fill in the rest of those values. So we said the first one that we're taking in is trigger text. The next one, because we're going to need to know whether or not this item is open, we will take in a is open property, which we will actually default to false, like so. We'll take in the on toggle click handler, and then we'll take in the React children, which are going to be React nodes. So the next one, or sorry, not the next one, the next thing we have to do is actually come in here and define the state value. So we'll say const max height and set max height equal to use state. Go ahead and import that. And this is going to be of type string. And basically, if is open, which is the value passed in from the parent, if is open is true, then we're going to set the max height equal to none. Otherwise, we'll set it to 0. I'm pretty sure if I did string 0, it would work too, because it's just CSS. That way I don't have to come in here and say string or number. I really don't want to do that. So I'll just say string, and we'll set the state like that. So now let's also add a use effect. And what this use effect is going to do is, let me actually create a snippet. What we're going to do here is we're going to say that whenever we get the is open property passed into this component, which will be passed in whenever it's clicked or unclicked, then we're going to say, we're going to run an if, what the heck is that? If, I don't know why it's not auto-completing for me. There we go. So we're going to do an if else, and we're going to say if is open, then set max height to none. Otherwise, set max height to, why do I keep hitting negative, to 0. Save that. And we're getting some errors because we didn't define our props. So we're going to say that this accordion component, this AccordionItem component, this is a React.functional component of type AccordionItem props, which we haven't defined. So let's go ahead and do that. So right above the component, we'll say type AccordionItem props equals brackets. We'll say, I'm just going to copy these actually. Save myself a couple of seconds like that. We'll say trigger text is of type string, is open is going to be a optional Boolean, and then on toggle is going to be an optional anonymous function, or not anonymous function, but just like just a function that returns nothing. So yeah, and then the children is going to be of type React.React node. So now we can save that, and we can start replacing this JSX with the component that we just created. So let's see. For our first one, we'll say, I'm just going to replace these wholesale. So we'll just say AccordionItem. Okay, got to import that. Let me just open this so I can grab this stuff from here. So we're going to grab this trigger text. So we'll say trigger text is equal to this. And then is open. Is not actually autofilling for some reason. So this one, we're just going to grab. Well, actually, yeah, this should be enough. So we're going to grab that. So is open is going to be basically, so if this condition is true, then is open is true. If this condition is false, then is open is false. And then we'll say on toggle equals, and this is where we pass in the click handler. that goes into the button, like that. There we go. So now we can close that. And then we'll pass in this content as the children. So paste that there. And now I can get rid of everything under the comment accordion item, backspace that, save, nothing happened because nothing changed. That was a one-to-one replacement. So let's go ahead and do that again. So for the next item, I'm just going to copy this whole thing. And this time I'll go above the stuff that we're going to replace. So for this one, this is literally just changing these two to item 2. Save that. So now you see like these two are both item 2, right? It's a little confusing but because I copied the text and stuff from item 1, but yeah. So so we're going to grab the text from item 2, put that, or the trigger text, I should say. We'll put that there. And then we'll grab the content. Let's try to clean that up. That looks weird. So just Control X that, and then put that there. Now we save that, and I Controlled X the second time. That's why there's nothing in here. And these are both item 2, so that's why they're both opening and closing at the same time. But we don't need that item 2 anymore, so we can go ahead and get rid of it. So I think from here down, there we go. And now the last one is, I'm just gonna copy that, paste that there, and then same deal as before. Just gonna grab the trigger text. I don't know why I grabbed the whole line, I just need the text. There we go. Paste that there. It's screaming at me because I have double quotes here, so I'm just gonna Control D both of these and swap them for, where's my single quote? There we go. So now we don't have any more errors. And then I'll grab this content. Oh, yikes. I am illiterate. Shouldn't have put that quote there. Yikes. That's going to come out in the final build. Oopsies. So let's see. Item 3, what is watch time? Oh, I'm looking at the wrong place. That needs to go here. Paste that there. And then we just need to switch out these two item 2s for item 3s. And then we can get rid of this accordion item, the hard-coded accordion item. Save that. And now, would you look at that? We now have our componentized accordion items. So I do actually want to split up the accordion item component into 2 separate components, one for the accordion trigger and one for the accordion content, with the accordion item being a container for both of those. And the rationale there is that like you may want to expand these, or not expand, but extend these components as APIs so that, like, for example, maybe you want to have like specific styling for some of your triggers, right? You might want to have like components that go into the trigger, not just text. You might want to do XYZ crazy stuff. And you can't really do that with our current approach. So what we're going to do is we're going to introduce 2 new components, and we're going to try to delegate some of the responsibilities amongst them. So in accordion.tsx, you know what? Before we split those up, let's do something that's a little bit easier. Everything that I said is still valid. It's just I want to take us the easier route to get there. So before we start splitting these up, let's actually create the accordion component itself. Because you might have noticed that like there is no like I haven't really explained how this state management piece is going to be isolated to the component itself, because we don't want to be doing this when we're creating a component library, because the whole idea behind a component library is you're creating something to be reused by consumers. So you don't want the consumers to have to come in here and have to do all this state management, like React-y kind of stuff. They just want to be able to like just use the components, right? And use whatever functions you expose. This kind of stuff, this should be handled internally. So let's go ahead and set up those internals. So I am going to, let's see. Let's grab a few things. Sorry, I'm debating with myself like about how I want to do this. So let's see. I'm just going to grab everything between app and the first accordion item. And I'm going to erase whatever the access is once we get to this. So let's go back to accordion.tsx. Sorry, I'm making y'all go back and forth. So above the accordion item, we're going to declare the type accordion props. Okay. And this is, we're just going to pass two things to this one. We're just going to say this is going to have, or not pass two things, but the accordion component is going to take in two things. It's going to take in children, which are going to be React elements, right? An array of React elements. And it's going to take in class name. And this is just like if you want to pass in styles to the accordion, this is how you would do it. And this is optional because we don't want to force people to have to do this. Next, let's go ahead and create that component. So we'll say export const accordion. This is going to be, of course, react.functional component of type accordion props. And it's going to take in the children and whatever class name has been passed in. And it's going to return what we had just copied. That's not true, because what we just copied included like the beginning of the return. Yeah, so I'm going to undo that and paste whatever we just copied in there. And I'm going to get rid of this layout. And I think, well, to be honest with you, I'm also going to get rid of, oh gosh, I'm really making y'all do the circuit right now. I'm going to get rid of all of this JSX. Yeah, that ended up being an L, but, you know, you live and you learn. So let's see. What else? What other things? Did I not close something? This needs to be an arrow. There we go. Accordion props. Const accordion. Oh, wait, that was right the first time. What did I do the second time? It's just screaming because I'm not using anything. That's fine. So we do need these things. I wasn't lying about that. I'm just going to get rid of that extra bracket at the end. And inside of the return statement, we're going to say div class name is equal to whatever, hello, brackets, whatever class name we passed in. Cool. And then this is where things are going to get a little funky, right? There's two ways we can go about this. We can either set up the context API and deal with the context API provider and make this thing super like unattractive, or we can go the easier route and just react.children.map, which is basically an array of React children inside of the parameters, inside of the function. It takes in the children that were passed in, and a function of what to do with said children. So the function will declare the first parameter as the child. So for each of these children, we're going to run this. So for the child, we'll actually make this a inline function like so. And we'll say for each child, we're going to clone the element. And what we're going to clone is child, and we're going to pass in the following props. Is open is equal to whatever the child.props.value is. So if the child, which in this case would be an accordion item, we're going to give it a value prop. That value prop is going to be its key, right? So remember, we were using value like over here. Where is it? Yeah, so like this would be the value. So this is the thing that we're looking for. So we're going to pass in the child props, child.props.value equals open item. So if the value is equal to the open item, which as we discussed is defined up here, so that's not changing. So that's how is open is defined. And we're going to pass in the toggle function. So on toggle equals ANFN. I don't even know why I type ANFN because I end up just erasing half of it. And we're going to make this handle item click child.props.value. So child.props.value is this key right here. And then this, whoa, sorry, didn't mean to move that. This looks very similar to this, correct? So what you're seeing right here is us basically saying that whatever children are passed in, we are going to clone them here, and we're going to pass down these props onto them. So the reason we're doing it this way is because now all of the state and the toggler, they're being created when this component renders the first time. And this saves us from having to go and create a context API and have to do all this like complex state management between parent and children, because the children technically affect the parent state, and yada yada, so forth and so on. This just allows us to circumvent having to actually type out all of the state boilerplate or the context API state management boilerplate, because you want to make it as like, you want to make your API a little bit cleaner. And this could be like more complicated. I don't know. This is just what worked out for me. So this is my approach to it. I hope it made sense. If it didn't, sorry. And like if anything, it's just a different way to approach things, and you learned a new approach. So the other thing we want to do is we want to make sure that this accordion, because we want this API to be useful for others, we want to set its display name so that like if it ever gets bundled, it's not like some random string of characters. It'll actually be accordion like that. Okay. So now we can update AccordionItem props to take in that value prop. So it's going to be a type string. And with this, we can actually go back to app.tsx, and you'll see we have an error over here, but that's fine. So we're going to get rid of these state values because now these are going to be managed in the accordion component. And over here, this div width full, we're going to import the accordion like so. And we're going to pass in class name width.full, which will go into the outer part of that div like that. And we're going to get a white screen because we have errors over here. So the reason we have errors is because now we don't need any of this. Bye-bye. All we need is, actually, no, wait, hold up. Sorry, Control Z. We don't need these two. We are going to get rid of trigger text, but not yet. So right now we need value equals item 1. So you see we don't need to pass the handler or anything. That's all being managed by the accordion. And we need to do the same thing for the other two. So value equals item 2. Open this last one. And we'll say, oops, value equals item 3. I don't need the use state anymore. Control Shift K that. Control Shift K, if you click anywhere in a line, Control Shift K will delete that line. So just a little useful shortcut. Control S, save, and there you go. Working just as it did before, no problem. But the API looks a lot cleaner, right? And that's kind of the reason we did this, is so that way when the consumer of your component library uses it, they don't have to like deal with all that like extra boilerplate. All the core functionality that's handled by your API, your component API, and all the consumer has to deal with is filling in the content that they actually need. So now we can go ahead and do what I mentioned earlier, which is splitting up the accordion item into 2 separate components, or I should correctly say delegating the specific things to its new child components, which will be called, well, let's get in here and start working before I start making things up. So in app.ts, or excuse me, in accordion.tsx, let me just minimize everything. So if you hold Control and you press K0, that will minimize, or that will like collapse all the carets over here. And let's grab, oh, you know what? Since I'm here, I'm just gonna double click that, paste that there, and change this to, so that it's AccordionItem.displayName equals AccordionItem. And that's just for consistency. So now I'm gonna grab everything over here. Actually, I'm gonna add some spaces underneath. Then I'm gonna grab everything over here. I'm gonna hit Alt-Shift down twice, and that'll duplicate it down twice. We're gonna hit Control K0 again, just to collapse everything. And the reason I did that is because like we're basically yoinking things out of AccordionItem and moving them to the new Accordion Trigger and Accordion Content components. And duplicating it and cutting stuff out is a little bit easier to do. So let's start with the trigger first. Over here. So for this second AccordionItem type props, AccordionItem props type, we're gonna just highlight the AccordionItem part of it, Control D, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, change that to Accordion Trigger, and there we go. And for the next one, highlight this, Control D, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, did I say 5 last time? I'm sorry, I meant 4. Accordion Content props. So now we have our Accordion Trigger and our Accordion Content and AccordionItem are all identical, which is not good. Let's clean this up. So in the Accordion Trigger, we only need, well, we're not going to need trigger text anymore because we're going to pass everything in as children. That way, whether you want to have like an icon over here or do any kind of crazy stuff, you can do it as like React nodes instead of text. So we'll get rid of trigger text. We're also going to get rid of the isOpen. I'm aware that you can have special functionality in here using isOpen, but we're not going to do that in our tutorial. Are we going to do that? No, we're not going to do that in our tutorial. But you can essentially do that the same way we're going to do it in Accordion Content. It's just I personally am not, so I'm going to get rid of it. So I'm going to also remove the state management stuff. So the state values and the state setters and that click handler, or was that a click? No, that was a use effect. Can't even read my own code. And I'm also going to get rid of everything above and below the button because all we need here is the button. So there we go. We just need to switch the inside of this button to say children instead of on trigger text. Sorry, trigger text. And that's our Accordion Trigger. Let's just update the props real quick. What did I need for the props? I don't need the value because that's not getting passed down here. I don't need the trigger text. I'm going to keep this for your sake because if you decide to implement it yourself, then feel free to. But for my case, I'm not going to use it right now. But you can use it if you feel like it. And then, yeah, that looks good. And in the Accordion Content, we're going to do more or less the same. We're going to get rid of trigger text. We're going to get rid of onToggle because this one's not going to use the onToggle function. And in the return statement, we're basically going to get rid of everything above the div with the overflow hidden class, and then this last closing div, like so. And I think, let me just double check, but I want to say that's it. Yeah, so it's just taking in these two divs, these children, and yeah. So now we have our children and our trigger and our content. How we're going to use these is going to be a little bit interesting because what we're going to do right now, we can get rid of, well, before I get rid of this, I'm just going to add in Accordion Trigger. And this is going to take in this trigger text. So I'm just going to Control C that, Control Shift K to get rid of that line, paste that there. And then under the Accordion Trigger, I'm going to open up a new tag. Accordion Content, and I'm going to pass in, or I'm just going to cut this, paste that there, and children's string is missing from the following. Accordion Content props. Children is open. What did I define accordion? Did I make a mistake over here? Accordion Content. I'm going to make this just taken as open like that and save that. It really doesn't like that. Oh, I'm silly. This is exactly what I was trying to explain. So the reason this isn't going to work is because we need to basically pass down the state from the accordion to the accordion item, or sorry, the state is being passed down from the accordion to the accordion item. Now we have to pass down the state from the accordion item to the trigger and the content. So let's go ahead and do that. So this was going to be the next thing we tackled anyways. So in accordion item, let's do some quick cleanup. We're going to get rid of trigger text like so, and like so. Yeah, those are good. And then over here, we can actually, we don't need this use effect anymore because this is, and this state setter, because these are only needed by the content component. Rather, we're going to pass down the state values that are needed to those respective components. So because we're no longer using the trigger and the content here, we'll erase them. And then we're going to more or less do the same thing that we did in accordion. So I'm actually going to grab from here, I'm going to grab all of this code, and I'm going to paste that there. And then in here, rather than defining the on toggle and the is open, I'm just going to pass them as is. So now the accordion item is just acting kind of like a conduit. So we'll say, let's see, react.children.map. Sorry, my IntelliSense is going crazy. Actually, underneath here, we're going to say, wait, what am I doing? No, that's right. Yeah, react.cloneElement, child as react.react. Hello, react element, any. There we go. So all this is doing is saying that, like, it's just defining the type of the child. So we're just saying that, like, whatever the element that we're passing these values down into, they just need to be of type React element. So now we can save that. It's going to scream at us for a second. That's because our API changed yet again. So let's see. We have the accordion content is screaming at us. And let's see, hover Y. Children's string. Oh my God, did I define children as string? Yikes, I'm a silly goose. Oh, so there we go. There's there. I am defining props that I shouldn't be defining. So we're actually going to get rid of the on toggle, and we're going to get rid of trigger text and value because we're not using any of those. So we save that, and let's see. Oh my gosh, I think because I literally have errors over here. Let me comment these out real quick. Yep. Okay, so man, that's crazy. I was like, yeah, maybe don't wait that long to resolve your errors, but let's get rid of this trigger text. Oh, wait, no, hold up. Don't get rid of that trigger text. You need to cut that trigger or copy that trigger text. Then you can get rid of it. And under here, same thing as we did before. Accordion Trigger. Paste that there. And then we can get rid of this nonsense. And cut this. Do it with accordion content like that. Paste that there. Save. And now we can do the same thing with the last one. So we uncomment that. Whoa, hello. Grab this trigger text like so. Come down here. Accordion. Sorry, I had a brain fart. Like that. And then cut that. Accordion content. Paste that there. And there we go. Look at that. Took us a while, but we got it. So, yeah, that's literally it. It's like the only thing we need right now, honestly, is to add some styling, to be honest with you. So let's go ahead and do that. So head back to the accordion.tsx file and let's just hide everything with Control K0 real quick. And what we want to do now, let's, so I don't want to take away from users, or I should say consumers, the ability to just have like a snap open close accordion. And I want it to be available to them as an option. So in the accordion props, let's go ahead and define a new prop that is optional, and we're going to call it animated. So this is just going to be a Boolean prop. So if the consumer passes in into the accordion that they want the accordion to be animated, and I do mean accordion, not item, because it, at least for me, I don't know, maybe I'm like drinking crazy sauce, but like for me, it doesn't make sense to have the individual items be animated and have other items not. So we're just going to pass it down to the accordion itself. And I am of the belief that accordions should be animated unless otherwise specified. And if you believe differently, then you can do the opposite of what I'm doing and define the prop as default to false. But in my case, I want it to be true. So let's go ahead and pass this down. So because the accordion itself is not going to benefit from the animated prop, we're just going to pass this down to the next guy. You know what they say, double it and give it to the next guy. Actually, that's literally what we're doing. We're cloning it down. So we'll say animated. Cool. So now we want to head down to the accordion items and same thing. So in the accordion item props, we're going to have I'm just going to copy it from here, whatever. So I'm just going to grab that and I'm going to dump it down there. And then in the accordion item itself, we're going to say animated. You can actually make this not optional and it should work just fine. So let's see. In the accordion item, we're going to do the same thing as before, where we're going to pass down the animated prop. We are not going to be using it for the trigger, but for the content, it will use it. So we'll say animated. And I should probably also define it in the props. So here we'll say animated, question mark, Boolean. Do I need the question mark? I don't think I do. So what we want to do is actually use this in our styling. So down in the class name for the first div or second div, yeah, the first div, let's change the way this class name is defined. So I'm just going to cut this out and I'm going to switch this to be an object with backticks, and we're going to paste back the overflow hidden, and then we're going to run a function in here, a ternary operator, and we're going to say if it's animated, then we're going to use the classes, or we're going to add the classes transition, max height. So it's going to do a transition on the max height with a duration of 300 milliseconds and a ease in out animation pattern. Otherwise, nothing. Oopsies. Let me fix that real quick. There we go. So that's all fine and dandy, but this might cause us a little bit of an issue because the reason is, let me see. Yep, over here. So we need to set the max height to, like, this is not going to animate if we don't actually know what the max height is, because it has to animate between something. So we actually need to get the value. And the only way we can do that, or the only way that I can think of, to be honest, is in here, like right above the state setter, we're going to grab the ref of this element so that we can figure out what its scroll height is, or what its max height, its scroll height is, and then infer the max height that it can expand to from the scroll height. So we'll say const content ref equals use ref of type h. Let me import use ref actually, like that, of type HTML div element. And this is going to initialize as null because this, when it first shows up, this doesn't exist. So then when the accordion is open, instead of passing in none, we're actually going to pass in the backticks sorry, content, not consent, although that's important too. Content ref dot current, which may or may not exist, so we'll put a question mark, dot scroll height. If that exists, then it'll be 0, and px. And why is this screaming at me? Oh, because I also called it consent ref over here too. There we go. So we save that, and that should work, but it's not. Let me see why. So we're passing down animated all the way. App.tsx, AccordionItem, animated is missing. Okay, all right. So maybe animated was optional for all of. Oh, yeah. Okay, that's right. So I think animated is supposed to be optional for everything, like that. Oh, and now it's not working at all. Let me see. Hold up. I think I missed something. I need to actually use the ref here. Sorry. So we'll say content ref, save that. There's not supposed to be a space between this number and the pixel. So we save that. And now we have our animated accordion. Next thing we want to do is sometimes when you show up to a site and it has a accordion, usually there's like one item that's like open by default. So we want to enable that functionality real quick. So we're going to add another prop to the accordion. We're going to call it default open item, make it an optional, and pass in a string because this is going to be the actual key. So down here, we'll say default open item, and inside of the state setter, what we'll do is when it first loads, if there's a default open item, then we'll set the initial state to that. Otherwise, null, right? So same as before. Let's see. There was a couple other things we had to do with this. Oh, actually, no, that's, yeah, I think that's it. So now we just go to app.tsx and we can say under accordion, we just add default open item and we'll say item 2, save that. And now when we refresh, this one is open by default. Refresh again. There we go. Open by default. So there you have it. Nice little animated accordion component that you can use for your component library. I thank you so much for watching. And as always, I hope you learned something today.